So in this segment, we're going to be discussing the UK government urge to honour pledge to Afghan refugee families. So this is just shambolic from the British government, as always, failing to honour our promises to people. So more than 100 charities and activists are calling on the Prime Minister to facilitate the resettlement of family members of thousands of Afghans who came to the UK under a government scheme. The government pledged to resettle family members in the UK, but at the moment there is no mechanism for them to do so. Campaigners have accused the government of abandoning Afghans in danger who were promised the right to reunite with their family members in the UK. So some of these people would have been promised asylum in exchange for them helping British forces. These people and their families, in some cases, have not been brought over to the UK. These are people which the Taliban are actively targeting. Even those refugees that have made to the UK are still in fear for their immediate family, which the UK is struggling to help them. By struggling, I mean don't care about them because they're still in Afghanistan to this day. It's been a year since the scheme for Afghan rescued under Operation Pitting, known as the Afghan Citizens Resettlement Scheme, was launched. The 6,300 Afghans who have been brought to the UK under the scheme but who had to leave their families behind in Afghanistan say their loved ones are in grave danger. They do not know if and when the government will allow them to reunite with their loved ones. The letter to Sunak, coordinated by Safe Passage International, highlights that vulnerable family members, including women and girls, and those from persecuted religious and minority ethnic communities, have been forced to live in hiding in Afghanistan, putting their lives at great risk. The UK is committed to resettle 20,000 Afghan refugees under the ARCS programme. So out of the 20,000 we have promised, we have given just over a quarter of that. This is a situation that you have Afghan refugees crossing the English Channel to get to the UK in order to have their asylum claims heard, because we have not created any safe passage for them. We could have worked with other governments in the area, with the embassies we have, to help refugees, but this government have chosen to leave people at the mercy of the Taliban, despite the promises we have made. Why would anyone work with the UK in the future in a war zone? Beth Gardner-Smith, the chief executive of Safe Passage International, said it's been 18 months since families were torn apart when Kabul fell. The government has effectively abandoned Afghans, leaving them without a process to reunite with loved ones who are at risk despite repeated promises made. Quote, Afghans remain one of the top nationalities risking their lives to cross the channel, but rather than create safe routes that would allow them to reunite with their families, the Prime Minister prefers to concentrate on new laws to further punish refugees, end quote. So this is another way we could reduce channel crossings. The government claims they care so much and that they want to deal with people traffickers. If you take away some of the people crossing, you've already taken away money from people traffickers. This stuff isn't hard. You have Ahmed, 23, a photographer and a young leader with Safe Passage. He was evacuated from Afghanistan in August 2021. He's been living alone in the UK without his parents and sister ever since, saying, quote, I'm depressed and nervous for my family, my friends, and for the women in Afghanistan, especially my mother and sister. They're not allowed to go outside anymore. Now I'm alone and it's really hard, and it is for them as well, end quote. And, you know, it's a situation in Afghanistan where if you don't have a male guardian, you're very limited in just going outside, you know, for fresh air. Like, if you don't have a male guardian with you, they will send you back to your house and they can punish you for it. He might be safe, but his family are not. That would put a tremendous strain on a person's mental health. Like, he's in the UK alone without his family in a country that's very far from his home. A government spokesperson said, quote, so we have brought almost 23,000 vulnerable people to safety, including those people eligible for our Afghan relocation schemes, end quote. So this is the total vulnerable people we have taken. Poland has taken over 1 million refugees from Ukraine. The UK could do a lot more, especially given the promises we have made to the Afghan people. The situation is that people who help the West are at risk of public executions. A female politician was killed in her own home by the Taliban. These are people the West promised so much to. The withdrawal of Afghanistan was a mess, but the UK has not done the basic things we have promised. Quote from the government, this is a complex situation, presents us with significant challenges, including securing safe passage out of the country for those who want to leave and for those who are eligible for resettlement, end quote. There are so many issues with this statement. I get trying to get people directly out of Afghanistan would be really difficult. What about the people who did make it out? We could help them. Heck, there are people who got all the way to France or other countries. Are we saying we can't help them despite the promises we have made? Shambolic from a government who only care about themselves. Like, there are Afghan refugees in France that we had promised help to. They're in France, like, not in Afghanistan, not in Taliban-controlled areas. France. If we had a processing centre in France, we could deal with the situation that we have, and it would greatly reduce channel crossings. But the government don't want to take the easy options, because keeping this situation going just fuels the culture war. The UK never really cared about Afghanistan, let's be honest here, and there are a lot of people, especially women and girls, suffering in Afghanistan because they can't even get the basic things like an education. They're forced to have male guardians. They're forced into marriages against their will, and some of the former female politicians have been murdered by the Taliban. The UK could be doing a lot more to help out the people from Afghanistan, just as the rest, a lot of other countries should be doing. But I think the UK, especially given the promises we have made to people and their families, we should be doing a lot more to help out. But anyways, I'm going to leave it there. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Like, comment, share, subscribe, support the channel on Patreon if you can, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one.